I want to talk about this photo of Meghan and Harry with Kris Jenner at her 70th birthday bash, I believe it was. But not to talk about the fact that Meghan wasn't smiling, because that could be for any number of reasons. It could be because she was on the sidelines, or it could be because she's doing this new thing where she doesn't smile. I don't know. Or it could be because there was another woman standing beside her husband. And as we know, she does not allow that. So I know other people have covered that, but I want to take that incident and combine it with a couple of other incidents and tell you what I think is going on, because I have had trouble squaring why some of these people are so nice to Meghan sometimes when they clearly don't accept her as one of them. We'll think that they're snubbing her, and then all of a sudden she'll be included in something. So I saw that picture, and then around the same time I learned that Oprah was including Meghan's As Ever products in her favorite things for this year. Oprah has done her favorite things list for as long as I can remember. Oprah's favorite things is a thing every year. And so when I heard that Oprah was including those products, I thought, wow, like I can't imagine Oprah saying, I just can't live without this runny, slightly sour apricot spread. I just can't see that. So I was thinking, why is Oprah including this in her favorite things for this year? And why is she doing Meghan this favor? Because it really is a big deal for a company to have a product of theirs listed in favorite things. It translates into a huge boost in sales, in visibility. If nothing else, it is free advertising. So I was thinking, Oprah has dissed Meghan several times. She didn't invite her to Gail's birthday party a couple of years ago. There have been several events hosted by Oprah where Meghan was conspicuously absent. Yet here's Meghan, here's As Ever, on this list that any new company would give anything to have their product included in. So just stick with me here and let's take one more completely unrelated incident, and then I'm going to tie it together and tell you what I think is going on here. Do you remember last year, or maybe it was sometime this year, when Gwyneth Paltrow posted that Instagram video, and at first it looked like she was mocking a video that Meghan Markle had posted a few days prior to that. At first, it looked like she was making fun of her, and then the camera pans over, and Meghan is sitting at Gwyneth's breakfast table, I believe, and they both laughed, probably at all the people who were going to be so giddy that Gwyneth was making fun of Meghan, and then thinking of their faces just dropping as soon as the camera went over to Meghan. Because if you remember that, then you probably remember there were rumors about a rivalry between these two, and there were a couple of incidents or events where Gwyneth could have included Meghan and didn't. So there was this video where she included Meghan, but then after that, there was no collaboration between Gwyneth and Meghan, and there was no apparent friendship. And that photo with Kris Jenner, by the way, she posted that photo for about 5 minutes before taking it down. So did Kim Kardashian. The Jenner Kardashians, they don't accidentally post pictures. They don't accidentally delete pictures. They were famous for being famous before they were famous for being anything else. That is a well-oiled 24/7 running PR machine, and they don't accidentally post anything. They don't accidentally delete anything. So get to the point, you might be saying. What do these three things have in common? Well, these are situations where Meghan is included, but not really. These are people who will include Meghan sometimes, but other times she's not invited to events that she would expect to be invited to. And so people go back and forth, whether it's Gwyneth Paltrow or Oprah or, I don't know, Serena Williams, just people that she's had dealings with, and wonder, are they friends with Meghan? Have they fallen out now? Oh, are they making up? And none of those things have ever been true. I don't know if I've mentioned in previous videos, but I love studying the history of the monarchy. I love studying everything about the royal family, the history of all that. And it finally dawned on me that Meghan is a sort of modern day jester. And I've started jokingly calling her the jester of Montecito. So if you go back to the medieval period and into the early modern era, it was typical for kings and queens to have jesters, or sometimes they would be called fools, the king's fool. But they were jesters, and they were people who had close relationships sometimes with their benefactors. And these were people who lived at court. They were well taken care of, but they were there for entertainment. They were there to make the king or queen and their courtiers laugh. And then they were sent away, not because they were a threat, not because they had been banished. In fact, they were endearing, but they were endearing within the role that they played. They didn't fit into that hierarchy. They didn't have that kind of place. They were sometimes a part of the action, but they weren't part of that crowd. And so I liken Meghan to that sort of role. She does move in these elite circles, and the people who move in these circles are not rude to her, but they don't accept her either. She moves in these circles on their terms because, like a court jester, she can make people laugh, but she doesn't have a place in that hierarchy. And just like a court jester, she never will. And there are so many examples I could use to make this point, but these three are the ones that immediately came to mind. When we see pictures of Kris Jenner or Kim Kardashian smiling in photos with Meghan, or Gwyneth Paltrow having Meghan over for a quick cameo in one of her Instagram videos, or when Oprah distances herself from Meghan and then all of a sudden gives her some attention and does something nice for her, those are not really the actions of true friends. Those are the actions of people who see Meghan coming and think, this is going to be good. This is going to be fun. Watch, there's no telling what this girl's going to do. I can just hear the conversations right now when I think about it. Imagine the pools they have going, betting on how long it'll be before Meghan tries to wrench a mic out of someone's hands, or betting on how long Harry will be able to speak to someone before Meghan interjects herself into the conversation. How many minutes will he be allowed to talk to this person before Meghan taps him on the shoulder or just walks up and stands in between them? That's got to be some big money. The circles that she's trying to move in, that's big money. It's got to be lots of fun. So to all of you out there who find yourself just getting so frustrated with Meghan or cringing every time you hear, "And here's Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex," just remember, Meghan is never going to be a part of that crowd. It doesn't matter whether she has that title or not. They don't care about that title. To everyone who is screaming for William to strip Harry of his title, stop. We don't strip titles because people are annoying. We don't strip titles just because people are embarrassing. We don't even strip titles when they don't live up to the dignity that the monarch expects of them when they bestow that title. So to all of you who love the monarchy as much as I do, and who are fans of the royal family as I am, of course we're going to be outraged at things that Meghan says and does, and especially things that directly affect the royal family. But this monarchy has lasted 1,000 years without YouTube channels calling Meghan out for every little thing she does. They've lasted 1,000 years without people wanting to get up petitions to have titles stripped away from people who they think have offended the royal family so much. The royal family can handle Meghan Markle. For the rest of us who find her offensive, but have not been personally offended or hurt by her, let's take a lesson from the people she most wants to be with, from the people she most wants to be like. Because if Meghan is the raging narcissist that I believe her to be, there's no point in having these angry, visceral reactions as if we've personally been wounded. And to people who are fans of Meghan Markle, for whatever reason that might be, there's no point in trying to be her friend. You can't love the narcissism out of a narcissist. All you can do is avoid them, ignore them, or laugh at them. Or you can do any combination of those three. So let's let the royal family handle their business. They are the ones who are being affected by the fact that Harry is married to Meghan, by the fact that their children are part of their extended family. And they must have affection for these grandchildren, nieces, nephews, cousins. But I know from experience that these things have a way of working themselves out without outside interference. They just do. Because children grow up. They start to see people for who they are. They start to make their own decisions. So that is all going to work itself out. For those of us not personally affected, I say let's take a lesson from Gwyneth and Oprah and the Kardashians and laugh at Meghan when we can and ignore her when we can't. And before I sign off, I want to say, for those of you who are fans of the monarchy, of the history of the monarchy, of English, British history, I am working on a series right now. There's just such rich history associated with the monarchy, heraldry, titles, and given these recent events with Andrew being stripped of his title and with this separate conversation, debate about whether or not Harry should be stripped of his title, I thought I would do a video on just how much weight these titles carry and talk about the history of these titles, especially the royal titles, what they really mean, examples of the very few times in history when titles have been stripped. So for all of you who do enjoy looking into the history of things like that, I hope you'll enjoy that series. I've just started on it, but I think it's an appropriate time to talk about the history of titles and tie that into current events. I did post about that on the community page, and I don't know how far down that rabbit hole I'm going to end up going when it comes to this history. So I will certainly continue to post updates. And if there are other topics that you would like to see covered on this channel, please let me know. I would be so happy to hear from you and excited to have new ideas for videos to post here. So with all of that being said, thank you so much for sharing a little of your time with me today. I do appreciate it so much. It really means a lot to me. And until next time, take care.